Hey, everybody. I am going to be looking at the Superman trailer and talking about it. And I know that the entire internet is doing that already. But I'm a big fan of Superman, like a really big fan. I think he's probably the most important fictional character ever, and prepared to make that argument in a lot of ways. And I just really wanted to talk about it, and I just love the trailer, and I want to do kind of like a bad EFAP breakdown. Pause it at certain points to talk about some of the aesthetic choices that I think are really cool, and yeah, just things about it to look forward to, and questions, and yeah, that's all. I don't usually do stuff like that. This is my first time doing anything like this, like a reaction video, quote unquote. And it's not really something I ever thought I would do, but I mean, now that I'm doing the YouTube thing and I've been posting some videos and connecting with people, it seems like a fun thing to do, especially when you're someone like me who seems to always have a lot to say about Superman in particular. Yeah, so we can start. So what I'm gonna do, guys, I'm gonna watch the full thing straight through. I hope I don't get copyright struck. I don't know how that works with trailers, but I'm gonna watch the whole thing straight through, and then I'll do a second round where I'll start breaking it down. In case you're one of the 4 people left on Earth who hasn't seen the entire trailer, I don't want to interrupt it. So let me start back at the beginning. Oops. There you go. Hold up, the captions are on. Don't know why. Never turn them on.
Krypto. Home. Take me home.
Superman.
Okay, so I love the music. This is like my 50th time watching it because I genuinely, when it came on yesterday, I was just like, I lost time. I lost time during my day watching it a few times. I say a few to be generous to myself and to not seem like a lunatic. I really, really love the tone of this, and I'm in Camp Crypto. I have a hard time understanding why anybody would have a problem with crypto being in it. I think the tone of this, the fun, the sense of adventure is really what we need right now in these movies. And it does feel like at certain points there's like a direct pushback against the tone and self-seriousness of Snyder's world. And I feel like James Gunn, I feel like he's going to, he's flexing, he's showing off a little bit by being like, yeah, I'm going to have a lot of silliness and there's going to be a little bit of camp even maybe. And I'm still going to outperform Zack Snyder in almost every way, including, oh, you want to make a gritty action movie? Watch, these action sequences are going to be way more intense and full of tension and I feel like that's kind of what he's doing. And and at the same time, we're also going to have a magical dog. So we can here. What am I going to do? I'll play the beginning here. So this opening for me, this is interesting because if you remember the first Man of Steel trailer, where we watch him walk through the snowy landscape and, fascinatingly, these begin almost the same way. Whereas in that one, it's this majestic, triumphant, the sun kissing his face and all that stuff. And in this one, we start with him at possibly what will be his lowest moment in the story. I'm not sure if it was a direct reference or a direct flip of the previous trailer, but it does seem like he's trying to, I don't know, play with certain expectations about the beats of the story, and then do something that goes completely in a different direction where, he summons his dog to come and help him. I don't know. James Gunn, he has this kind of complex, slightly trollish sense of humor that I like sometimes. Sometimes he can be a little much, but, I'm not always a fan of his, but I do think he's very talented and has done some great stuff. It also is a really interesting opportunity to give us our first full shot of his costume on camera, but we're getting it with him in practically the fetal position. But I gotta say, even though I'm not really a fan of the chunkiness of parts of the costume, I'm sure in the context of the movie I'll like it more. I really like that he's got those rich colors. It's so nice to see the reds and blues, and I love the yellow on the back, the yellow Superman sign on the back of the cape. All that stuff is great. Yeah, there's a bit of a Marvelizing, it has a bit of a Marvel look to when I say Marvel, I mean the MCU, the films. You take a costume, you stick to somewhat the traditional colors, but you add lots of seams and textures and not a huge fan of that. I think they're going for something that almost feels like it's a spacesuit. I, for one, really, really love the traditional tights. Also, guys, I'm looking down because that's where my screen is. I have a drawing tablet that I use for pretty much everything, for now anyway. It's not me looking at a script or anything. I really like the colors, but I do feel like a part of me really misses the... I wouldn't say tights like spandex like the original. I think Superman Returns had a really good balance. I love that costume. I love the colors are great, but I also really love how they balance it out between skin suit tights with the character's kind of natural, the actor's natural physique. And with this, it kind of does feel like, you had this actor bulk up like crazy for this role. And it feels like you're kind of hiding his physique behind the costume, but that's just nitpick. I'm sure it'll be fine. So the idea that you start with this part of the trailer is something that in the comics I'm kind of sick of. I get a little tired of this in the comics. In the trailer it works and I love it. For some reason it just feels different because in the movies you don't really see this happen very much. So the culture of the films and the culture of the comics is different. In the comics, I think we're all a little fatigued of seeing those of us who read DC still... a little fatigued of starting the story with oh no, Superman's down, what are we going to do? It's like they set him up to be the most powerful character in that world just so that they can use him as a measuring rod for the power of the villain. You know what I mean? It's just kind of how many times are we going to do this? Can we let him be active? Can we let him be... That's obviously not what they're doing here. Here, this is appealing to a film audience that mostly knows Superman as being, even the Man of Steel movies, which I'm not a fan of personally, they did a really good job of making him seem very powerful. And I think that going from that to this, to starting your trailer with not a triumphant shot of him, but one of him clearly in the middling points of a battle where he's getting his ass handed to him. It's an interesting start, and to start with this, and then to kind of pivot into this incredibly optimistic, heroic tone, and to leave you feeling really good at the end of the trailer, even though you're starting with like our hero looking like he's breathing like he just got clobbered so bad he's gonna die. That to me is another, that's like a James Gunn flex. Like James Gunn always displays this incredible confidence with his creative decisions. Like even if you love him or hate him, he there's a swagger. Like he's like, watch me do this. I'm gonna pull this off. You'll see. He's bold, and maybe that kind of bold, but he's bold, but he's sensitive. I think the theme of what a lot of you're going to see in this, in my opinion, of this trailer is a kind of emotional intelligence that he has. I think he has a lot of emotional intelligence, which I don't think Zack Snyder has as a filmmaker. I just don't think. I think a lot of what Zack Snyder does is this image placed in this way references this old painting. And, clearly I've thought a lot about this. And it's like, then you watch the movie and you're like, the emotion of that does not land at all. That's one of those things. I think Rebel Moon had a lot of that, or as EFAB calls it, Rebel Moon. There's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, look at this classical imagery that I'm referencing or that I'm putting in this film, but it's so hollow and empty. And I'm sorry, I know there's probably a lot of Snyder fans who are going to, if they see this, they'll start sending me hate mail or just troll me in the comments. I'm sorry, guys. I love you. I respect you. I just don't think Snyder's, I don't think he's a good filmmaker. I think he's got some great visuals, but I'm sorry. I did not mean for this to turn into me shitting on Zack Snyder. It's hard to not compare what he did versus what Gunn is doing. And for anyone, before they say anything, I'm not like a Gunn. I don't love everything James Gunn does. I think he's talented. I think he might be the right fit for this, and I'm hopeful for it. But I thought Peacemaker was fine. I'm not hugely into everything he does. I think sometimes he gets into these holes of repetition where he just makes the same movie over and over. Everything is Guardians of the Galaxy. Everything is a group of misfits who learn to love each other. And I'm hoping he doesn't do that with this, because it's not really Superman. There's components of that, but he's more than that. So we can keep going. Yeah, see, I love this. I love the sound of him wheezing while in time with that, you start showing clips of Clark Kent. And even though I'm sure that it's edited very differently in the movie, in the trailer, it's giving you a sense of like that he's maybe close to death and is like looking at other things happening in his life. I also love the way Clark looks in this. I think that some people had some comments about his hair is so scruffy. Well, it's like, that's perfect. They seem to be going with the Frank Quitely. If you ever, I wish I could just bring some up, but the Frank Quitely version of Superman and Clark, that dynamic was that Clark changes his physicality so much and his posture and the way he moves in the world that people, wouldn't even think that that there's a different version of this guy. And so he really highlights with his art the idea that Superman is also a great performer. He's a good liar. And that's like kind of an interesting dark side to the character, that he's really good at manipulating and tricking people into thinking he's a doofus. And Clark, he's lovable in his way. I'm wondering how James Gunn is going to handle this idea that Clark, it's like, how do you maintain the notion of this character being this painfully sincere, loving, compassionate, honest person, and also show him to be a skilled performer, that he pretends to be someone completely different than he is, and that he pulls it off all the time, and he lies to all these people that love him. How do you fix that? I mean, Christopher Reeve and Richard Donner handle it perfectly, and in the comics they handle it really well, but they also portray Clark very differently in some of those versions. But in this one, I wonder if they'll play with the idea that Clark is a component of Superman that's also very honest, that he is that as well. Like he is a clumsy, anxious, person, and he's also this like this supremely confident, angelic hero, and like maybe you can be both of those things, and the Clark persona is a way to explore vulnerability that Superman maybe, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to see what he does with that because, like I said, I think the emotional intelligence is going to be a big part of what makes, what informs the action in the movie. Like you're going to be more invested, I think, in the big action sequences because he knows how to get you, invested in somebody's personal stakes. And hopefully he can do that without deconstructing the character. He's so tall. Let me go back there. Sorry. So I really like this design for the Daily Planet. Look at the architecture. So I had a whole thing in my head where I was like, I really hope that he doesn't just make everything look super modern and like it could be, perfectly fitting into our world. They did a really good job of, I can already tell he did a really good job of balancing out modernity, like a sense of visual modernity with a kind of retro 1930s, 1940s-esque world that these characters exist in. Because you can't, Superman, the fairy tale of Superman, you can't just pop him in the middle of like modern day Chicago or, or modern day, New York, like Snyder tried to do. Sorry, I'm bringing him up again. I just don't think it's not that interesting to look at. Like that when Gotham and Metropolis are basically the same city, it's like, what's the point? With this, I think that they're giving the city a personality. It has a sense of grandeur and color. I love the sun the sun washing in through the windows. I think it looks really beautiful. I love the Daily Planet logo and that they kept it pretty consistent with how it's looked in a lot of different versions of the story. And yet it looks like a modern news office, but there's something about it, the way that the lamps, even if you look at the lamps and how they're kind of the hard light going down, that's a very like old newsroom feel to it. And having the desks, instead of cubicles, or the way everything is set up, it just looks like they're blending old and new in a really nice way. The set design's great. I love the I guess you'd call it filigree on the top here. It gives you the sense that this is a really old building that's been there a long time. So they're kind of connecting it to history in a nice way. And creating this, I think the set design, this is the kind of stuff that I'm sure the conversations people have. When I worked in concept art and set design, this is the kind of conversations we would have, like where we want to invoke a feeling of, we want people to look at it and be like, okay, I think internally I understand that this building is probably a couple of 100 years old, and that in a way, because you see the age of the building, you can see the design, that it predates Art Deco, even, that we're kind of connecting it to the Superman creation timeline, like the 1938, creation of the character when things looked a lot more like that with that type of design. You're kind of, you're connecting that to the modern world in a really nice way where you can almost imagine that the Daily Planet was that at that time and that now it's this, but that we're still a part of that world. We're still a part of that 1938 to 2024, or in this case, 2025 timeline. So it feels like the goal of this, from a design standpoint, is to reference multiple ages of Superman so that we can make like a visually definitive world for him to move around in. So that's pretty great. And I like Clark as his body language there, his posture looks a lot like Frank Quitely's Clark Kent. The hunched, slightly awkward movement and the clothing that doesn't quite fit him very well. Like he doesn't have like super well fitted clothes. And that's from the comics with this all-star Superman, because the idea is that Clark is kind of hiding his physique. He's got this like really muscular Olympian body that he kind of hides under clothing so that he looks just kind of like a big, slightly pudgy guy. I mean, obviously no one would think this guy's pudgy, this actor who's so like incredibly good looking. But the idea that you hide your strength, which is what Clark is you hide your strength behind all this stuff. So people don't suspect that you're, a god in disguise. Yeah, see, so I love Lois Lane's outfit here. I'll go back. I think she looks great as Lois. They took elements of like the 70s journalist, I think, of like, what All the President's Men, type thing. The Dustin Hoffman 70s journal. I don't know, something about it feels like a journalist from the 70s, like Zodiac. And, but there's also elements of, of that classic 1940s reporter in this outfit. If you look at her pants in the next shot, see, it's in a lot of ways very 70s. And the people in the back, the woman in the back with the brownish skirt, the guy in the foreground, his hair and the collar he's wearing, a lot of this screams like 70s journalism in a really interesting way, where it's like, oh, are you referencing the original Superman, Donner film? And partially I think so, but something about the way the clothing fits on her and the way it's designed, it also kind of makes me think of 1940s, 1950s, like, oh man, is that woman wearing pants? Like when people were kind of moving away from skirts in some professional settings, and so he's trying to do something really. And look at the gold color on some of the lamps. I feel like he's trying to do something where it's like that 70s journalism feel to the, even her long straight hair, like the way that she looks like. The idea of your natural look becoming more popular at that time instead of like tons of makeup, that feels very 70s, but something about it also feels like it's like 1940s. I don't know what it is. You guys can tell me in the comments if you think I'm right or wrong, or something about the look of it. It feels like they're putting both of those together. This is the kind of stuff I think about all day. I'm sorry if it seems really idiosyncratic, but when I look at things like this, I just start mulling it over. There's a kind of time. I think he's going for a kind of visual timelessness. So the clothing, it touches upon 1940s, and the set design, they touch upon, those things in the 40s, 70s, futurism, I really love the look back at him. I don't know if this is the first time they meet or not, but I kind of feel like they're going to be playing with this idea of attraction, in the movie. I think they're going to be playing with this idea of Lois being attracted to both Clark and Superman for different reasons. And maybe they'll explore the idea that she's attracted to Clark because she can see past all the BS and see that Superman is there inside. Or it'll be a conflict where she's like, I like both of these guys. One of them is, a human who's approachable and a little silly, and the other is this impossible, beautiful golden god. What, who do I choose? At least the way they edited this, it looks like she's kind of checking him out, or that there's a bit of a recognition. Can I just say, I love this casting of Pa Kent. I think his name is Vince Pruitt or Vance Pruitt. His name is Pruitt. I know that. That's one of his three names. It's like something Pruitt. I should have looked that up. I'm sorry. I love this casting for Pa Kent. I love that he looks nothing like Clark, because there's so many versions of the story where they make Pa Kent kind of traditionally handsome in a way that Clark is. Because I guess they wanted Pa Kent to be this like all-American farmer dad who you just like look up to, and I respect that, but that's a classic approach, and I love that they're like, no, let's make Pa Kent look like, he's an old, tired farmer. I don't want to insult the man's looks. That's not what I'm trying to do. I think the contrast is really smart. Again, the emotional intelligence of showing someone who has a kind of age and frailty compared to Superman and compared to his son, not just to accent the difference in age, but to also show the difference in, Superman's invulnerability versus human frailty. And to really highlight the fact that even though that they're clearly not related, like they want you to see that these are not genetically related people, and which makes the love between them really, I think, there's power in that it's like, you're not my son by blood, but I love you all the same. I think that's a really cool idea. I think casting someone who's very different than every other version of Pa Kent that we've seen, it's a great idea. And I'm wondering if this embrace here is because Ma Kent isn't around, because in every other version, Pa Kent dies first, and and she's a widow. They might reverse it. They might reverse it in this and make him a widower. Which, I don't know why one of his parents has always got to die before the story kicks off. Why do we have to do that every time? But who knows? I don't want to start guessing too much about, story choices. But yes, I love this casting of Pa Kent. I love this moment between them. It looks great. So cool that he summons his dog with a whistle. It's great. It's great. I can't imagine anybody. I can't understand why someone wouldn't love this. Wouldn't love Krypto. The yellow outline around the Superman S is, it's fine. I prefer the traditional Superman S, but this works too. It looks comfortable. It looks comfy in that suit.
Krypto. Home. Take me home.
Love that. So something I was thinking when I saw this the first time was when he says "take me home" and the music kicks up. That to me feels a little bit like there's a I don't know if there's an intentional reference. I doubt anybody wants to reference the Star Wars sequels right now, but it does feel like there's this, "take me home." I've seen that come up now in other posters, and I feel like it's going to be working probably on multiple levels, because you got "take me home" as in, Superman finding his home on Earth, and that whole thing, because it's not his original home, and maybe wanting to go home to his own planet and realizing that this is his home. That whole arc. I feel like there's another aspect to it, which is, again, James Gunn, his emotional intelligence. "Take me home" is also saying, take us back to an optimistic, hopeful Superman, and a colorful world that he exists in. And like, take us back to traditional morality. Take us back to just good versus evil. Take us away from nihilism. Take me home. And it feels like that's the coded message there. Again, I might be reading into it too much, but I feel like I'm not the only one who's seeing that. And if that is what they're doing, it's one of the best marketing campaigns that they've done in a long time. I think there was a bit of a blunder with that first image of Superman putting on his boots. Like, why is that the first one and not this beautiful poster you made? Like, that should have been your first outing. But I think that if that's their marketing campaign, is to take me home, like take me back to what heroes should be, like universal values, keep specific day, politics of the day out of the movie, and just enjoy what we can all agree is good versus evil. I think if that's their stance, if that's their marketing angle, that's the kind of bold, smart stuff that one wants to see more of. But I love it. I love that he says that and the music kicks off. It also, there's something about the dog grabbing the cape and running. It's just like, it's perfection. And I think he's gonna nail that. He is gonna nail that dynamic. James Gunn will add dimension. I'm sure there's going to be dimension to it. It's not just going to be a simple guy and his dog. There's going to be aspects to it that he's going to pull from the comics of the complexity of that relationship, this shot is so awesome. Okay. Again, this is where emotional intelligence comes in. I hate to keep ragging on Snyder, but right here, when he comes to save her, if you watch the fact that you can see it right there, he's putting his hand behind her head and pushing her head down, because the back of the head, I believe the occipital bun, is where you're most vulnerable, And so I used to box. I still box, but I used to do it. I used to teach boxing for a living. And I bring that up quite a bit, actually. I bring that up about as often as Nerdrotic talks about how he used to own a comic shop. That's like the thing that people joke about him. And it's going to become a meme if people start noticing how often I bring it up. I can't take it out of my you can't take the ring out of me. But the idea that when it's against the rules to punch in the back of the head because of how vulnerable we are back there. And I just love that when he's protecting her from impact, he's not just putting himself in harm's way and acting as a shield. He's also very gingerly grabbing the back of her head to protect that from any stray particles, any stray like detritus that might hit her in the back of the head. That's perfect storytelling. Because if this had been a different director, and it's not just that, if it had been a different director, they might have just done the zip where she gets pulled out of frame and the impact arrives at an empty space and Superman was so fast. But I like the idea that he's like, because that to me is it's less believable. It doesn't have the same verisimilitude because if you whip a person through space that quickly, you could snap every bone in their body. Superman's speed and power just pulling you out of the way. It's just like, your whole body snaps. It's actually safer in terms of protecting her to put himself in harm's way and to use his own speed to just get in front of her so that she doesn't actually have to move. And then to just cover the back of her head where she's the most vulnerable. That is really good. That's just really good. That's a superhero right there. That's what people were reacting to that shot. You could see the other reactions. People, and I don't think everybody even understands what it is they're reacting to. They're like, why does this matter so much to me to see this shot? Because, we've seen tons of superheroes grabbing kids out of harm's way. And I think a lot of it is the covering the back of the head. That's what your dad and your mom do when something's about to hit you. Your parents will, if they're, worth their salt at all, they'll instinctively cover your head. If something's about to fall and you'll grab your head and they'll cover it because they know that everything else can be fixed mostly. And that is a place you don't, and the fact that he has that kind of sensitivity and that kind of compassion and attention that Superman's very attentive to people and what needs to be done to keep them safe and alive. I love that. I also love the dynamic pose. It looks like this is a panel from a comic. I mean, it's so good. Yeah, I'm wondering I'm wondering who that is crawling down it's probably going to be like some variation of Miss Tesspacher or something. I don't know. But the Luthor Corp logo looks good. I like the bridge between the two buildings. It's an interesting design choice. How much you want to bet that's a kryptonite bullet? I kind of hope there isn't much kryptonite in the movie because I get so sick of what it does to the story where, I don't know. I mean, like, I just, I don't want to have the third act Superman losing his powers. I mean, I guess you have to do it. And I can't think of another reason that he would have a gun. Because obviously a regular gun wouldn't work. And it's this old revolver, which I think is really interesting. But yeah, kryptonite bullet, likely. But I do love that he's dressed like, someone said he looks like Hitman. The old Hitman games. It does.
Superman.
Oh, I want to go back for a second. You can hear the kid. The kid says Superman before we see him. When we see him holding the flag and he says it with his eyes closed, that's the second time he says it. Watch.
Superman.
He just said it there. And I'm wondering, from an editing standpoint, why you would choose, I find it interesting, why would you choose to have the voice of the little kid saying Superman with a shot of Lex getting ready to shoot him? It's not even him saying it during this next shot where he punches through the glass. Interesting choice. I think it's almost like leading the audience into the fact that you're going to see the kid before you see him. So you kind of like, you build that up, you build up the idea of a child saying the name Superman. Before you show him, almost like, because you're amping up the emotion, the sentimentality of Superman being a child's dream of justice, Great shot. I love that of him. I don't know what the context of that is. It's going to be probably him losing his powers and getting them back, in order to break out. This shot with this music.
Superman.
It's great. I noticed, so I love the flag. I love the idea that the Superman symbol starts to become this cultural symbol for standing up to bullies, and like revolution and not like violent, scary Maoist revolution, but like, pushing back against abusive powers. I love the beginning of them saying Superman over and over. I think that that's a big part of what I loved about this trailer. And again, this feels like a bit of an answer to the Man of Steel trilogy. It's like, we're going to say the name Superman. Because if you look at Man of Steel, and they almost never say his goddamn name. They're so embarrassed. They're so embarrassed to say Superman. Because it just feels like Zack Snyder thinks it's like lame and gay. I mean, I don't want to project on him, but I just don't feel like it felt like he wanted to do something to remove it from the classical, the inherent corniness of it. And in this trailer, James Gunn is like, no, we're going to say Superman like 7 times. In fact, it's one of the only things you're going to hear. Call Me Chato had talked about this clip after this.
Superman.
When the guy throws the can, you see Superman flinch, and Call Me Chato just talked about that, where he was like, I don't know, is that an oversight? Because he shouldn't be flinching. Watch, you see him like that, and Call Me Chato was saying, it's Superman. Like, he wouldn't flinch from a can hitting him in the back of the head, even if he is bothered by it. He's like, so now he's saying maybe it's he's weakened at this point. Maybe there's something, because Chato had said, I can't imagine that James Gunn, with his attention to detail and creativity, wouldn't have noticed that and corrected the problem. But I don't think it's necessarily one of those two things. I do think it's I don't know that it's necessarily it could be a statement about emotional vulnerability, even though he's physically invulnerable to being harmed by a can in the back of the head, that it bothers him so much that he flinches because of the emotional text of somebody throwing graffiti at him and being hated that much. Like, maybe that's what he's flinching at. I don't know what the argument would be. And I realize this is very like nerdy, nitpicky, but I don't know. I don't really have a problem with it. I could see why someone else might, but I don't know. We'll see what they do in the film. Again, I love the yellow S on the back of the cape. I love it so much. It's so cool. Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner looks hilarious. I love that they kept the really bad Guy Gardner hair. I did not recognize Nathan Fillion with this haircut. He just looks weird to me. I don't know. It's great. I mean, it looks accurate. I love it. I think it's good casting. It's just something about his face in this shot I didn't recognize as Nathan Fillion. But I'm so glad Nathan Fillion is now like a fixture in the DC film universe, because he's great. I love him. Everybody loves him. I think he's going to be hilarious. He's he's brilliant. Hawkgirl is there too. That's so cool. And I love that he's just like, yeah, everybody should just look like how they look in the comics. The comics were popular for a reason. The design does not need to be fixed, The chanting of Superman is just like, I'm gonna go back for a second. The giant kaiju. I don't know. Superman's going to fight a kaiju. I'm pretty excited about that. I love this idea that we're going to get all this action in the movie, and we're going to get to see Superman go up against like a pantheon of enemies. Like, I hope someone was rumored that it was going to be Bizarro when he finds himself in the snow and he's all bloodied and beaten up. There was a rumor that would be him versus Bizarro, which I wouldn't mind. I would love to see him fight his dark equivalent, and I would love to see how James Gunn handles Bizarro. Hell yeah. The kaiju, this is all stuff you want to see. You want to see the Superman battles, right? It's always him versus a humanoid equivalent like himself, in some kind of like godlike gladiatorial combat. And then you also want to see him fight the kaiju, right? There's like the trials of Superman, the things that he faces. That's how you make it. That's how you make him different and unique. You don't just turn him into Batman. Batman is an investigator. He's a detective. And Superman, it's like, you want to see, he's the greatest athlete in the universe. You want to see him put his body and his will up against like big bombastic enemies. And that's what's fun about the character. He's Hercules, I'm really curious about this shot of them looking at each other calmly and taking their time, while in the background something is happening to the city. I don't know how they're going to justify him saying this. You know, it looks like he's having a goodbye to her before he goes out to fight whatever the hell that is. There's a few things in the DC universe that could be. This robot, I mean, this is like, again, it's strongly pulled from both the Richard Donner Superman movies and the Frank Quitely and Grant Morrison All-Star Superman. Like the background, that environment looks a lot like Richard Donner's Fortress of Solitude, and I love it. But also, if you look at the robot, that's like right out of All-Star Superman. The robots who help him take care of his home. And I'm wondering, him like looking so emotional over the failing, half torn up robot. I don't know. I wonder what they're going to do. Is the robot one of his caretakers? Is it one of the creatures that helped him? Like, was it, you know, was it assigned there from his parents or was it that, you know, does it have the consciousness of his parents in it? I'm wondering why he's so emotionally invested in this. I mean, you know, I understand he cares about everybody, but a service droid can be fixed. But watching him, I love this shot. I love that they're highlighting his compassion so much, and he looks great. The costume looks great there too. You can see how it's fitted around his physique. He's got a great look at his arms, man. The dude looks great. He looks Olympian, and I really love that he's expressing so much concern for someone who, you know, if this had been another movie, it would be like, who cares? It's just a robot. But I like that they're showing that as soon as a personality is assigned to a creature, it in Superman's eyes, that creature has a soul and it has value, and that's really cool. And I don't know what the context of this is, but they're communicating that through this image of like his compassion. I mean, look at how he's taking its hand, the robot's hand, and also you look at the other hand of the robot he's holding. It looks like a tool, screwdriver, something. It's really cool. Yeah. Fortress of Solitude, maybe? Yeah, coming out of the ground. That's got to be. Or something related to that. Okay, that guy. Let me pause it again. Okay, some people think that's Metamorpho. I think they're probably right. If you look at the left and right side of his body, the change in texture of like the two different types. At first I was thinking maybe it was the Parasite. But I don't know. I do love the look of whoever this is. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's probably going to be Metamorpho because the expression on his face looks fairly compassionate, sort of like looking more concerned, which feels more like a hero than a villain. And yeah, if you look at the left side of his body, that purple-ish texture, that's Metamorpho. And then on the right side, you get the stony look. So yeah, it's probably Metamorpho. I thought it was maybe the Parasite, but again, I'm looking at it now. It's probably Metamorpho. The textures are cool. I love the colors in his eyes. They made it work, you know. I love that he just goes for it. I love that James Gunn is like, no, let's make it look fantastical and fun and colorful and I love this. Watch it. So they're chanting Superman over and over, right? And now I noticed this with the trailer. For these last few seconds, they're just chanting Superman, and they're showing the different reactions of different people to hearing it almost. It's like, I know they're not happening diegetically, but there's this sense in the way it's edited that the way they hear it, like in a sense that they hear it and that you're watching the different characters react to Superman. So you saw Metamorpho and there's this look of awe. And then you see the kid screaming Superman as he holds up the flag. And then you see Lex Luthor enraged and jealous because that's how he reacts to the concept of Superman. And you just keep doing that. And again, James Gunn, he's like, they're saying the name over and over. They're saying Superman over and over so that you know that they are not embarrassed to be working with this character on this story. They're like full steam ahead with the sincerity and embracing the comic camp. You know, I wouldn't even say camp, the comic, I think the sense of innocence and hope They're like really embracing it, and like you're going to hear the name Superman. And I'm so happy about that because his name is awesome. You don't got to be ashamed of it. You don't got to hide. Yeah, so watch this channel. The shot of Crypto here dragging him across the snow to take him home, I saw a lot of people in the reactions just waterworks, you know? It gets me emotional. And my brother was talking to me, Rusty, check out his channel. He was, my brother was saying like, maybe it's because I have my own dog now, but when I see that of the dog taking him home, he's like, that's when I lost it. It is a great shot. It really makes you fall in love with the dog. And there's a next shot here that looks like, again, it's referencing something from maybe the animated series. Right there. Right there. I think that's going to be Superman before he gets his full costume. Because there's that animated series that just came out. I forgot what it was called. Came out last year about the first, it's like Superman Year One type thing. And that's exactly what his costume looks like before he gets his Superman colors. So I'm wondering if that's going to be him in the early stages before he gets his costume. I would also be fine with it being someone else and it being an enemy he has to fight who dresses that way, because that would also make sense. Because actually, you know, now that I think of it, they're probably not going to do his origin. I don't think I mean, maybe they are, but I think that they wanted to start with him in the middle of his career, or at least at the beginning of his career. So yeah, I want to see what they do with that. And maybe that's the guy he's fighting in the next shot. Oh, you know what it is? I stand corrected. That looks like someone he's fighting. Yeah. Man, whoever he's grappling with there is a big guy. He looks massive. Look at his limbs. Look at how he's. Maybe that's honestly, guys, that might be Bizarro. I'm gonna look at that shot again. Yeah, that looks like that could be. I mean, it's definitely someone with equivalent power. That could be Bizarro. That'd be really cool. I can't wait to see. Also, Mr. Terrific looks awesome here. I think he looks perfect. Again, they're really highlighting the love story, because you can't do a fairy tale like this without having the romance. You got to have the love story. I know some people, something Chato said, which I really disagree with. I like Chato a lot, by the way. I think he's great. He's one of the best YouTubers, I think, doing reviews right now. But he was like, "Oh, a love story in the first movie? Can't we do?" I was like, "Yeah." And he immediately moved to this place where he was like, he seems to be assuming that if there's a love story, she must know his secret identity. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. The Richard Donner movies didn't do it that way. She doesn't find out until, well, I guess the second film, but the love story does exist in the first film before the truth is, revealed to her. So I don't know what they're going to do. But I am very happy that the love story is front and center, because we need a love story in movies. Not every movie needs one, but I think that if you want to have a complete, big, epic, action adventure story that just fills all of the nutritional needs of your audience, because this is nourishment, the love story is a big part of that. Top Gun Maverick was a huge hit, not just because it was exciting, it was well done, but there's also like a really traditional love story. It's just a man and woman falling in love. Like, that's great, and it's really elegantly done. And I think if you can do something similar in this, and people need that, they need hope, they need a love story sometimes. And Superman is, I don't care what anybody says, Superman is a romantic character. That's his appeal. He is, and I mean romantic in every sense, not just in the sense of a love story, but also in the the romantic era sense of romance, where it's a romantic world, a world of of extreme goods and evils and epic battles between light and dark and all that. Like, that is a romantic notion. Superman is the embodiment of that, and a love story is essential to that. The love of a woman to a man like that is it's a big part of his grounding to humanity. So I don't really agree that the love story should wait. I think he should come out front and center. Don't try to think about sequels. Don't be like, oh, well, we'll save it for the next one. Just leave everything on the court in the first movie. The beautiful love story, compelling action sequences, give him great villains to face, heart-wrenching, beautiful moments with his family, just everything. Just put it all, leave everything on the court. Don't sit there and be like, oh, we're waiting for part 2 before we do this, because people think that way too much and it ruins movies. Yeah, so let me just finish this. I love this last shot. I love that she doesn't kiss him here because we already saw a few shots of her kissing him. Instead, she hugs him because now it's concern, I think, that he might die in what he's about to do. It's like it's not just lustful, you're so hot. It's also like, please don't die. Like, that's what that hugging feels like, and I think that's an important thing there. Because it's not just heat between them, it's also like friendship and caring and compassion. I think that's cool. The new DC logo looks great. It's just the comics. It really is just right out of the comics. I really find it interesting that they didn't drop the title of the movie at all there, but his name is said so many times during the trailer that you feel like you saw the word Superman. And because they used the typeface, the almost exact typeface and font and color grading from the original Superman movie typeface and font. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so I really like it. I think we're going to get some really interesting stuff with this. I don't understand the people that are like, oh, I wasn't feeling it. I was like, really? All right. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion. For me, I was like, this is exactly what I want for this character. I think some of the people that say they're not feeling it are some of the ones that they want things to be more grimdark because they need everything to be that way. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I personally feel like this is a really great, promising direction to go in. I really hope they stick the landing. I think he will. James Gunn, I don't always love what he does, but I do think I think maybe he might have made like the Superman movie of our generation, however people want to say it. So yeah, if you like that, subscribe. I don't usually do many videos like this. A lot of my videos are me drawing comics while I talk to people. That's kind of what I do a lot. But if you think I have anything interesting to say and you want me to do more of it, let me know because I will. All right, guys, thanks again. Talk to you later.